Before we get started, I want to remind you that if this quarantine is exacerbating issues in your relationship, or if you're solo and it's creating issues of touch hunger for you, I'm here to listen. And we're also beginning to see some portions of our country and our world reopening, which creates a whole new set of stresses. So if you need somebody who can listen without judgment and who can help you to learn how to navigate and negotiate this new world that we're living in, I'm here to listen. Today we'll meet Tamara. Her husband is in a high risk category, having almost died from complications of diabetes just last year. So they've had to lock their house down, except that Tamara is an essential worker who has to leave her home almost every day to go to work. Meanwhile, they're polyamorous. Let's get started.
I live with my husband, who's my nesting partner, and he works from home, so he's pretty much home all the time. I work for the state. I'm an essential employee. I am going into my office every day, Monday through Friday. Other than that, we have limited our exposure to other people. We're trying to do, we do our groceries through we pick them up, we order and pick them up rather than go into the grocery store. Every once in a while, we do have to go into the store, but we try to keep that to a minimum. The only other residence of our home is our dogs. My youngest lives about 10 minutes from me, and we have not visited with them since this all started. They've come by and picked up things I've left outside and that type of thing. Yesterday, actually last night, was the first time I ventured outside of what we had set up and did a socially distanced walk with a person.
Nice.
One of my partners. So, but up until then, we have had severe limit of any contact with other people, except of the folks I work with.
So you use the term nesting partner, and you mentioned that you have another partner. So we should clarify that you are polyamorous.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know the term nesting partner, that means the person who you live with.
Yeah. So my husband is the person I live with, and I refer to him as my nesting partner.
The reason that I was interested in talking with you, and I think the reason that you were interested in talking about this, is because you do have other partners who you're sort of going through, I think, a mourning process of not being able to see them and going into something that in our community we're kind of joking as forced monogamy. But
Yes.
It's not really a joke. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that's like for you?
Well, one thing I've learned is I'm definitely not monogamous. Forced monogamy is hard, and it's not about. So many people think that polyamory or being non-monogamous is about sex, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's about my relationships and my connections with other people, and being present with them. And not having that has been, there's a lot of mourning and a lot of grieving that I do. And trying to navigate that and take care of myself and be supportive of what they need, that's been tough.
So how are you communicating with your other partners? Like how much of your communication with them is just like, I need to talk to you and feel your presence, and how much of it is like sexy interaction over a video call or a phone call?
So my relationships are all very different. I have one other relationship with somebody that I consider a partner that we've been together for over a year and a half. And we try to do a video call once a week. That's been a little tough lately just because of the nature of their work. They're spending all day on video, and it's just, some days it's just a little tedious. And as much as they want to see my face and have that interaction, they don't want to stare at a screen anymore, and I get that.
Yeah.
And so what I do is on those weekly calls, I feel it helps to get into the mood into a sexy headspace. We have a playroom in our house, a room that's designated for playtime for ourselves and our partners. And so I will do the call in there, and I will usually put something sexy on. And my partner's gotten really used to that. And now it's like, so what are you wearing? We haven't taken it beyond sexy talk. We haven't engaged in sexual activities this way. And I've been hesitating to do that. And I really don't know why. I was talking to my husband about this the other day, because back in the day, I used to engage in a lot of phone sex with people that I had long distance relationships with, and I never thought twice about it. And yet now I'm finding it a little bit harder to get into that mindset.
Huh.
And I don't know if it's just because of the circumstances around why we're not seeing each other. So I have another person that I've been seeing for about 5-6 months now, and it's very casual between us. So but we text a lot. We'll do a phone call maybe once a week. And I do send both those folks, I do send a lot of naughty photos.
Yeah. And that's a way to keep connected.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems to be very well received.
I'm sure. And so what about, times of stress can do all sorts of different things to our sex drives. How are you finding your sex drive? Has it gone down? Has it shot up? Yeah, way down. Yeah.
Definitely. It is a lot harder to get into that frame of mind, and to feel sexy. Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about that in the last week. I kind of hit a wall a week ago. I hit like a significant wall, and I did a lot of grieving last weekend. And I think a lot of it is that in-person interaction and those personal connections that I get face to face feed that part of me that feels sexy. And without it, it's just not there. And it is something I'm really struggling with, because ironically, people think since I'm home with my husband, that's pretty much all we do. Like, no.
So are you and your husband having some sex?
Yes.
Or has it fallen off?
We are having some sex, but we're probably having the same amount of sex that we did before the pandemic happened. Yeah.
Just minus all the other partners to fill in the extra days. Yeah. There were a couple of weeks there when we knew that things were bad and we knew that we needed to take precautions, but we hadn't gone into full lockdown yet. And I know that there are a lot of negotiations among polycules about who's got what risk tolerance and who is able to see which partners. What kinds of negotiations were you having during that time?
So one thing I did neglect to mention is my husband is high risk. So my husband is a diabetic. So, and we went through something last year where it was very, he came very close to dying. And so I don't ever want to experience anything like that again. And so immediately he and I sat down and we're like, what is this going to look like? And he just said, we can't, it's too much of a risk and we cannot allow other folks in. So, and he has people he sees too. So it's been difficult for him also. And the people in my life have been completely understandable about that. Like they, my other partner is good friends with my husband and immediately knows, he's like, I totally get it. And that should be the priority. And let's respect that and keep him healthy. And so that's what we're doing.
I think so you and I are friends. You're not just a random person on the internet.
Full
disclosure. And so we share a friend group. And I've always, like, it's been very clear to me that poly relationships are real relationships, that it's not people who are being selfish. It's not people who are just like wandering around and having sex with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Please forgive the phrase. But it has really hit home for me seeing how much my poly friends are really grieving
Yeah.
the fact that either they're in a position like you are where they have a partner who they can be with, so they're not completely touch deprived, but you are in forced monogamy, or other friends who are poly but don't live with a partner and therefore are completely separated from all of their partners. And it's been really hard to watch. A little bit of a left turn and talk about food and body, your relationship with food and body during the quarantine. Has your relationship with food changed at all during this quarantine time?
At the beginning, I think it did a little bit. Um, I have dealt with the eating disorder my entire life, so I have control issues around food. And so whenever anything happens where I have a lack of control, such as the pandemic, I find myself wanting to control anything I can.
Mm.
And the food has been a problem for me. I normally am very careful and I follow a specific way of eating. And I kind of just threw that out the window like the first couple weeks. And then I realized how crappy I was feeling, and that actually being able to control what I was eating does help me feel a little better. The hard part for me is finding a middle ground where I'm controlling what I'm eating and be feeling good about it and not obsessing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I struggle really bad. Um, I had started running before this hit, and I have upped my running, and I have found that is really has been super crucial for me.
Well, Tamara, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Leah.
If this video has been helpful for you, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about how you're handling the quarantine. And if you're struggling with this lockdown, I want you to know that I'm here to listen. Go to the link on the screen to get information about my quarantine coaching special. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you again soon.